Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Leandra the TBR0 and today we're going to be going through my reading journal for 2025. The plan is to flip through January through March, reflecting on not only how these spreads are coming together, but if I am enjoying the changes that I've made to my bullet journal lifestyle. This is the 4th year that I am bullet journaling, but it's the first one in which I'm including stickers, washi tape, other paper materials, and for now, I am enjoying the simplicity of it, and I think it's giving my hands a break because I used to do everything by hand, which just was more time consuming and also a bit tiring on the dexterity of my fingers. So for my goals, I think I'm doing a pretty good job keeping things simple. I like that I've added the option to change my goals from July to December. We'll see if I take that opportunity and actually change those goals. Now, another thing I changed this year was my 25 in 2025. I used to write out 25 titles or, 23 titles, whatever the year was, and that never really worked for me. Then I decided to not be specific with titles, but maybe be specific with categories. So I have to read 5 books in the mystery genre. I've got to read 5 books from nonfiction. And now this year, I've also scrapped that. Instead, I am simply reading from my physically owned TBR and seeing if I can come up with categories moving forward. And so far you can see that I've come up with 3 categories so far. I'm also doing pretty good in reading books from my physically owned TBR, and I think that this has allowed me to do that, so I'm a bit mood reading rather than feeling forced to actually read the books that I planned for this challenge. Now for this spread, I'm kind of obsessed with it. I'm excited as it grows and moves over to the right-hand side, but for now, I am also pretty happy with the fact that I haven't bought too many books that's necessary, because I'm really hoping that this spread lasts me the entire year of 2025. Because if I do fill out this spread, where will I have it continue? It would probably have to happen at the end of the book. But something I also included this year that I didn't do previously is a rating, so star ratings, and then also how much the book cost me, just because I think that would be interesting moving forward to keep track of, and who knows, in 2026 I might remove those statistics and that's perfectly fine. This is also something I've added, kind of. So I did have DNF statistics last year, but it was pretty much just me writing down every single book I DNF'd and trying to remember when I DNF'd it, whereas I added a fun little side project, which is the DNF graveyard, and boy is it filling up pretty fast. I just saw a few people doing that last year in 2024 and thought it was a really fun addition to DNFing. And I also added the question of, is it a new to me author or a repeat author? So I simply write N or R, and for the most part, I'm DNFing new to me authors, which is interesting. Now, this one is still kind of under construction. It is my books read page where I pretty much just mark every single book I've read. Clearly, you can see that to date of filming, I had read 49 books. Like I said, that's a lot. And I'm not that concerned with it. I just know that I've been reading a lot more short books, which is my preference. But this year, I do want to read chunkier reads. So I think that's a challenge I've got to keep pushing on myself. But one day, that spread will be finished. For now, it really is just a work in progress. Now for my publication year bar graph, this is my 3rd year doing it. And every single year, I think I get better about knowing how I want to track it. And the one thing that I say is the best choice I ever made was not creating a simple timeline that starts from the earliest pub date to, 2025, for instance, because it ends up leaving so much unused space because I don't happen to read a book that was published in every single year of existence. I know, what a wild concept. Whereas this time around, every time I read a book, I then add the year, and so it just makes it a bit more full. Another spread I tweaked a little bit that I've had for quite some time is the repeat authors and new to me authors. I read so many new to me authors every single year. Usually it ends up being 75 to 80% of the books I pick up, and I wanted to track that. But this year I've changed it up a little bit more, where I have the repeat authors being tracked too, and I think it's helping me see that I'm actually pretty even this year. It's kind of crazy. I wonder if that'll continue. Now, the genre bars graph, this is also a statistic that has been so hard for me to track, even though I am determined to track it, because genres are subjective. we have genre blends, and we also have subgenres, so it all just gets a little bit tricky. But for now, I feel like the setup has been pretty simple, and I do have a way to track genre blending if I think that technically a book fits in more than one category. Now, a completely new statistic for me is on the right-hand column, which is my series tracker for continued series. I have tracked it in the past, but never really well. I've officially created a really nice table that has helped me, and really all I'm doing is acknowledging that a series has been continued and then which book in that series was continued. Similarly, same exact copy and paste for new series started, but for that one, obviously, it should always be number 1 in the series of X number of books. And it seems as though I've been continuing series way more this year as well. So not only am I experiencing higher numbers for repeat authors already, but also for continued series. I suppose that makes sense, right? Because if I'm returning to authors, there is a chance that I could be continuing a series, and I'm glad that's happening because it's been an uphill climb for me to try to at least dedicate myself to finishing a series. More often than not, I'll read the first book and then I'll forget that that series exists, which isn't, the best process. Now, for acquisition methods, this one I have been tracking for 2 years now. This is my 3rd year. This time around, though, the only thing I've done is create more of a grid system, and I do think that that is a lot easier. Now, it was much more time consuming because I was making so many lines when I was first setting up my bullet journal, but I do like the setup, and I feel like I'm getting better about knowing where my books are most likely coming from. As you can see, my biggest sections are TBR backlist, purchased books, and then a huge section for library because I ran out of space last year when I was borrowing books from the library. And this one is also a very casual tracking method that I enjoyed doing last year. I've gotten better about tracking it every single year. I think 2 years ago I didn't acknowledge immersion reading, and so then last year I implemented that. And now I'm able to track every type of format and the combinations that may exist. The one thing that's crazy is I'm already reading more ebooks than I typically do, so I'm glad that I'm actually using my e-reader rather than simply having it collect dust on the shelf. Now, these next 2 spreads are ones that I've had for at least 3 years. The head-to-head I've always included in my bullet journals because I really love the process, and it's just a really fun spread to see when it's all filled out. The difference is I'm not filling it out as readily as I was in past years. At the end of each month, I would look at my list of finished books and then fill out what my top read of January was, of March, of April, but for whatever reason, I am hesitant to do that now, and I think I may wait until the end of the year because I think our feelings change the longer we're away from a book. So we'll see if that ends up working out for me or if I will want to return to my previous process. Now, these 2 spreads I'm very excited about. So Bingo on the Lawn is a bingo board I created for the Manor, my Patreon, and it's all very much related to Manor events. Battle of the Booktuber is one that you can see is blank. It's also under construction because I still don't know how I want to set up that, but that's a competition that will be finally coming to fruition in July, so keep an eye out for that. I'm currently reading secret books for it. I also have my Not Reading for Content book club, which I also need to get better about filling out, and I think that speaks to the fact that bullet journals are work in progresses. They don't have to be fully polished and done. It's for you, so however much you want to fill it out, that is your choice. And so I'm okay with where my bullet journal at is right now. And so I hope that you are too, if you are someone who also has a reading journal. Each year, my monthly spreads do change a little bit. I've brought back the cover page, for instance, but one tried and true is my calendar, where I track every book I pick up per day. It's just a fun thing to track because at the end of the month, you have a finished spread, which is something you can't say for your year-long spreads, which take 12 months to complete. One thing I added is the formats to the table below my calendar. I just like tracking just how many physical or audio or ebooks I'm picking making up per month rather than having to rely on the statistic that's year long. A thing that I changed is that I used to have the number in the middle of each day, and then the color assigned to the book would be a circle. So each number would have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 circles around it. It started looking really crowded, less professional and clean. This time around, I've replaced the circles with squares below the numbers, and I just think that it's a bit more aesthetically pleasing. The biggest change that I've probably made between 2024 and 2025 is getting rid of my single spread book reviews. I did enjoy making them, but I think last year I just felt really stressed for time, and so there would be days where I was a month or 2 behind on those spreads, and it would take me hours to catch up, and while they looked beautiful, they just ended up taking way too much time. So instead, now I treat it as diary entries where I don't write every single day, but when I think to fill out these journals, then I do, and it's really lovely because it's a bit more stress relieving. It's a bit more of a therapeutic experience where I put my thoughts to page, what books I'm working on, which projects I am focusing on, and I kind of like how it ends up looking. I think it adds again to this kind of light academia aesthetic that I have for this bullet journal. Now, this readathon specific spread is probably going to be a rarity in 2025. I mean, I have participated in 3 readathons in 3 months, and only one of them ended up getting a dedicated spread, so that should speak volumes. But last year I did Clue. I really loved it. I had a full spread for it, so I thought I'd bring it back, but I kept it simple with just designing the board for the aesthetic of my team colors, which was Mr. Green. And when it comes to my February calendar, you are seeing a theme. I'm keeping it very consistent, which I think allows my bullet journal to remain simple and stress-free because I'm not doing too much or more than I can handle. But what's fun about this is that in the week of the 12th to the 17th, I read barely anything, and that's because I was sick, and I think it just speaks to the ebbs and flows of one's reading life, and so that's another reason why I really like to include the calendar. And here we have again my little journal entries. Can you tell that this year the theme is simplicity? I want my life to be simple, I want my bullet journal to be simple, and so all I've done is add a little bit of a flourish, which is the form of pressed flower stickers, and I'm totally fine with that. Now, with this March cover spread, I'm a little disappointed with how I wrote March. I thought I would switch up the theme, and it just doesn't look that good. I think what hurts it is that the markers I'm using are far brighter than the aesthetic of the rest of this spread with the, dark purples and mauve, but you know what, that's okay. One thing you may notice that I'm getting better at with every single month is carrying a color theme throughout. So with this one, I was on Team Raven for Realmathon, and our team color was purple, and so I was including pinks, purples, blues. Did have to lean into some red for this calendar spread for March, but I'm still pretty pleased with how it turned out. And I actually read so many good books in March, which is lovely, so it's all thanks to Realmathon, hosted by Covers with Cassidy. And again, we have this very simple aesthetic where the journal entries are, and sometimes I have a lot to say, sometimes I have barely anything to say, and I just like the lived-in look that it comes with it. I don't think too hard about how my penmanship is with these diary entries, and this may be my favorite cover page to date for April as we're entering our second quarter. I just really like the color palette that we have going on here. Browns and yellows, a little bit of pink, some beige. It speaks to the entry of spring and summer, which I'm very excited for. And this is actually really great. I love that we have the opportunity to see where a spread starts out. So January, February, March are completely filled out. You know what this one is going to start to look like, but for now it's early days. I've only started, cataloging a couple books that I've read, and I really like the process of knowing that this spread will eventually be completely full, and then I can move on to May, for instance. And for now, I'm just really pleased with how this bullet journal is shaping up to be. I really enjoy having these diary entries. I think they match the aesthetic that is cottagecore, like academia, and it just matches my lifestyle at the moment where I enjoy bullet journaling, but I just don't have the same amount of time to dedicate to it, and that may change. So in 2026, you may see a completely different bullet journal, but for now, this is working out for me, and I look forward to seeing how it continues. Thank you so much for getting to the end. Thank you to my Manor guests, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!